जय श्री राम एवरीबॉडी, वेलकम टू भारत मार्ग। विनय जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमसे जुड़ने के लिए। थैंक यू पॉलिटिकल एनालिस्ट। एंड आज का खबर जो है बहुत बड़ा है। This is a big expose on British Muslims being kicked out of the banking system. Okay, that's what we are going to discuss about. क्या हो रहा है? Okay, ब्रिटिश मुस्लिम को यूके गवर्नमेंट टारगेट क्या करती है क्या? हम ये भी विनय जी से जानना चाहेंगे कि सबसे इंडिया में भारत में आके मुसलमान से ऐसा हो गया वैसा हो गया बोलने वाले संसद जो बैठे हैं ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट में, वो भी सही, या वैसा ही बड़े बड़े भारत के खिलाफ बात करने वाले बीबीसी भी सही, कैसा चुप बैठे हैं इसके लिए? इसके बारे में कोई बात नहीं। वो कैसा है इसके बारे में भी हम विनय जी से पूछेंगे। क्लिक एंड वॉच what the Muslim leaders are talking and preaching inside the Masjids of London as Political Analyst Vinay Ji exposes. Okay, कोई सवाल है तो पूछिएगा, कोई इनपुट है तो दीजिएगा. We will love to hear from you. Okay, but before going further, friends, please make sure to like the video, comment on the video, share the video as much as you can. And also, friends, please make sure to subscribe the channel if you didn't already. And press the notification bell to make sure you can stay connected with us. हम जब भी लाइव जाएंगे आपको सूचना मिलेगा ताकि आप आके आ सकें, जुड़ सकें, कोई सवाल है तो पूछ सकें. और nowadays we send out one धार्मिक मैसेज, हर दिन का अपना धार्मिक मैसेज आता है व्हाट्सएप में. If you are interested, you can send us a WhatsApp to +1 647 964 with your name and where you are from. कौन सा लैंग्वेज में आपको चाहिए उस लैंग्वेज में आपको मिलेगा. ओके, तो हमसे आप व्हाट्सएप में भी जुड़ सकेंगे ताकि आप अपना मोबाइल के द्वारा जो जहां भी हो दुनिया में आप सनातन के जड़ से जुड़ सकें, जुड़ के रह सकें. विनय जी, वेलकम टू भारत मार्ग. ओके, ये क्या हो रहा है कि ब्रिटिश मुस्लिम्स आर बीइंग किक्ड आउट ऑफ द बैंकिंग सिस्टम?
It's kind of an eye-opener as to how the Western media and with the Western countries portray themselves. They are always showing that, oh, we are appeasing the Muslims, we are appeasing the minorities, we are giving them a lot of leeway, and we are encouraging immigrants and refugees to come from these war-torn countries, Muslim countries, and we let them pray, we let them do whatever, and blah blah blah. But inside, what happens, nobody knows. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the Cordoba Foundation. Okay, it's a British think tank. Okay, so British. This is headed by a person by name Anas Al-Tikriti. Okay, and Anas Al-Tikriti, I think he's a Muslim, and he basically said that apparently his account, like the Cordoba Foundation's account, the business account, was closed. Okay, and it was shut down, and by the National Westminster Bank. It's called the NatWest Bank in the UK. It's a very big bank, actually. Okay, and the bank didn't send him any letters, no warning, and all of a sudden he was unable to operate his account. And so when he called NatWest, the customer rep there said that, yes, sir, your account has been closed. And when the guy asked him, hey, what happened? Sir, I'm not at liberty to reveal why, because I don't have the authority or I don't have the information. So basically, your account has been closed.
As for following the protocols, or how is it?
Just following the protocol. Basically, it came from the head office and they closed it, and that's all I can see here. And I'm seeing your account, and the account is closed. So you don't have any more access to your account. So
तो उसमें जो पैसा था वो क्या हुआ?
So the money basically apparently it gets frozen. So the person doesn't have access to his money.
अच्छा, वो मनी को गवर्नमेंट ले लेती है.
I don't know whether the government takes it or whether the bank takes it, but the account
मतलब
is frozen.
जिसका है
When
उसको
the
नहीं
account
मिलता
gets
है.
closed, what's that?
जिसका है उसको नहीं मिलता है
No,
पैसा.
no, no. It gets frozen. Eventually, I don't know if they'll get it or not. But the problem is, let's say I'm going to talk about jump to another person in a moment. But let me finish what I was saying. Apparently, this Altikriti's personal HSBC account also was closed, and his family members. And this happened in 2014. Yeah, in 2014, he had an account with HSBC, and his family members had an account with HSBC, and all these accounts were closed. But HSBC sent a letter to say that your account is getting closed. All right. Now, apparently the recent research. Okay, this is mind-boggling. Okay, I want the listeners to listen to this. The recent research has found that in the United Kingdom, banks are closing up to 1,000 accounts a day.
Wow.
Okay, 1,000 accounts a day. And this is banks call this de-risking, okay, or debanking. So basically, this is a term that usually means rejecting people, businesses, and organizations that are deemed financially or legally risky. Did you understand that? Anybody who is supposed to be risky in terms of financially or legally, their account, they're basically a risk account. So to de-risk that account, they basically close those accounts. Okay. So the problem is the major financial institutions were doing this under the carpet, under the rug, without nobody knew about it, because you know what,
like they did Canada में जैसा किए थे वो जो ट्रकर्स के खिलाफ जो किए थे वैसा.
Exactly. So let's say you have an account. Okay, you as an individual, all right, you have an account, or I have an account, and you and I don't know each other, correct? So you suddenly you see that your account is closed. So you go to the bank and say, hey, what happened? And they will give you some cock and bull story, and that's basically say, okay, all right, oh, okay, maybe it happened to me, and then you just say, okay, all right, so I'll live with it, right? And then it happens to me, and then it happens to somebody else. So these are all random stories. But now what has happened in the UK, there are mosques for the Muslims. There are institutions, there are NGOs for the Muslims. And these guys are all now coming together, and they meet there, and they kind of congregate. And now they talk about their issues. So you go to a particular, mosque or whatever, right? Let's say you're a Muslim, and then so you kind of talk about it with the imam or whoever there, and say, hey, this is what happened to me, and then I come and say the same thing, and then say, oh, two of them has, it's happened to two of them. So now 3, 4, maybe 5, 10, 20 join together, right? Now it's becoming a community issue more than an individual issue. So everything that is perceived as a community issue by the Muslims, they make a big hue and cry about it. So, then the other thing is there's a politician by the name Nigel Farage. He's a right-wing populist politician who championed Brexit. So he went to war in July with British banks and ultimately won the battle after his accounts were closed. Okay. So he announced the closures in late June, saying the establishment was trying to force him out of the UK. Soon after, the BBC inaccurately reported that Coutts, which is owned by NatWest, had closed his account because he didn't meet the wealth requirements. So it soon emerged that NatWest's boss, Alison Rose, had provided false information to the BBC. She later quit along with the head of
BBC provided the false information. They are pretty good at it anyway.
It's like, it's all like they're okay. The funny thing is, people say, and BBC also made a big fuss about, how Rahul Gandhi lost his MP, member of parliament status, right? Because of something. It's all a BJP led conspiracy and blah blah blah. So they made a big hue and cry. But guess what goes on in the UK? They target politicians who are a risk to the government. You see what I mean? So basically, this Nigel Farage, he was a risk because he's a right-wing populist politician who is an extremely popular guy in the UK, and he
can be targeted. Wow!
And they targeted him by closing his account. Okay, and basically he said in his tweet on what is called as X right now, he said the establishments are trying to force me out of the UK by closing my bank accounts. I have been given no explanation or recourse as to why this is happening to me. This is serious political persecution at the very highest level of our system. You understand this?
Absolutely.
So the funny thing is, the resignations and fallout, which has seen call for investigation and a condemnation of the banks by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, have been welcomed by Farage and others who have spoken up about their personal financial trouble. So Rishi Sunak apparently has stepped up and doing something. But you got to keep in mind that in every
and you have to keep in mind, Rishi Sunak is an unelected politician who cannot get elected again.
Exactly. And the other thing is, you got to keep in mind that Rishi Sunak was put into that position by a kingmaker, or by a kingmaker, or by some kingmakers. Every political party has that. How did Justin Trudeau, who was the Canadian Prime Minister, who was a school teacher, taken out of the school and brought into politics, active politics, and made the Prime Minister of the country? Because there are kingmakers. They basically say, hey,
the best example is the person who cannot remember what he talks, the person who cannot think what he has to say, Mr. Joe Biden.
Exactly. These are all basically people who have been brought in by kingmakers, and the kingmakers, they decide our party is kind of on a losing trend, so we got to do something. We got to bring the right candidate. So they bring in a candidate who actually they think is going to be the winning horse, and they give him all the support, all the financial support, everything, and they kind of make him the guy, the president or the prime minister or whatever, right? So this is what is happening. And the majority of the accounts that have been debanked, or which are called de-risking, right? Guess which community is being targeted? The majority of the people are from one particular community, and that is Muslims.
But मैं ये एक सवाल आपसे पूछूंगा विनय जी, ये इसके पहले नहीं हुआ जब तक फ्रांस में ये बहुत बड़ा ये हंगामा हुआ, उसके पहले तो ये खबर नहीं आया, अब तो आ रहा है, इसका और उसका कुछ संबंध होगा क्या?
No, this after the Nigel Farage issue, and then after the this Anas Al-Tikriti, the guy, from that forum, these guys, after they have been making this a big issue, and also basically when people started like for example, Fadi Itani, head of the Muslim Charities Forum in London, he said that these are the guys who are coming out and talking about it on public media. BBC is not. Keep in mind that BBC is not publishing this or talking about it on their media channels.
Because you had to, let's give benefit of doubt to BBC. आपके BBC के लिए कुछ benefit of doubt देना ही चाहिए. वो काउंट कर रहे थे कि भारत में कितना घर में टॉयलेट नहीं है, जिसके हिसाब से उन्होंने आज एक बहुत बड़ा खुलासा किया.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're talking about 700 million people don't have toilets in India. That is a piece of crap. What they have absolutely nothing to substantiate their claim, right?
It's a fake news. They don't need to substantiate. BBC.
Yeah, it's all fake news.
propagates
Exactly.
fake news, yeah.
They're masters of fake news.
मगर सवाल ये है, जिस मुसलमानों को इन्होंने इमिग्रेशन देके लेके आए, रेफ्यूजी स्टेटस देके आके, अभी इनको क्या फायदा होगा उनको डी बैंकिंग करके बैंक सिस्टम से उनको किक आउट करने में?
Correct. See, once you're financially screwed, then you are in a major trouble, because I'll tell you this. Fadi Itani, head of the Muslim Charities Forum in London, he apparently told Al Jazeera that at least 50 organizations, I'm not talking about individuals now, I'm talking about organizations, Muslim organizations, have faced bank closures. Okay. The Muslim Council of Britain, an umbrella group representing UK Muslims, recently wrote a letter to Sunak and Labour leader Keir Starmer, Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, saying Muslim individuals and organizations have been disproportionately affected by this issue. Okay. And, the big organizations like London's Finsbury Park Mosque, UK-based Ummah Welfare Trust, and these are all organizations that have that collect aid for more than a dozen countries. They've all been targeted. Their accounts have been closed. So and when that happens, the problem is these guys are unable to operate their organizations, and end of the day they have no choice but to close it down, because they have no access to the money.
उसमें इनको क्या फायदा है? ये तो चाहते हैं कि मुसलमानों को बढ़ावा करें, कम से कम that's what they say.
The idea behind it is basically, I think there is something called as institutional Islamophobia in the UK. Okay. And they are basically do not want to accept it. They want to say, oh, we are not Islamophobic. We are not, anti-Muslims or whatever, right? But the reality is, from these stories, when you hear these things, what is happening in the real world, then you say, oh my God, because they are targeting Muslims. And yes, Muslims also have reputation issues, because there are organizations that have direct connection with Al Qaeda or ISIS or whatever, right? Or they may be funding these terrorist organizations. So that's why they say that if they're legally risky, which is, these are all organizations that would come under that, or there are individuals who actually are probably supporters of ISIS or empathizers of ISIS or Al Qaeda, and or sympathizers of Al Qaeda or ISIS or something like that, or any of the terrorist organizations, then they target these guys, because obviously there is banks don't work by themselves. There is probably government intelligence involved in this or something, and the government intelligence is feeding the information to the banks and saying, hey, this person or this organization is high risk, so shut down the account. Exactly what happened in Canada. Remember during the Freedom Rally? What did they do? They basically shut down the accounts of, or froze the accounts of, many of the individuals who are participating in those in the Freedom Rally in Ottawa. You remember that, right?
Yes. But Vinay ji, now taking it one step ahead, क्या ये करेंगे कि अगर आप सोशल मीडिया में कुछ लिखते हैं गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ, तो आपका अकाउंट को फ्रीज करना, आपको तंग करना, ये भी हो सकता है, या it will stop only with this Islamophobia thing?
I think that this is not going to go away. Okay, I'll be honest. I mean, no matter whether Rishi Sunak interferes or somebody else interferes, the
Rishi Sunak to jayega. He cannot win election, right?
No,
do you agree with me on that?
I mean, like UK, I'll tell you, in the
he was an
United
appointed PM.
Exactly. In the United Kingdom, there is a lot of still racial discrimination. Okay, and the I would say probably 90% of the pure United Kingdom population, not the immigrants. I'm not talking about the immigrants. The people who are part and parcel.
इसको मुसलमान नहीं वोट करेगा. Let's go straight. ऋषि सुनक को मुसलमान नहीं वोट करेगा, गोरा नहीं वोट करेगा.
Exactly.
चर्च को क्रिश्चियन नहीं वोट करेगा.
Exactly. I mean, these are the people who do not. There is, like I said, they do not want a colored person leading their country. Okay,
Mhm.
that is simple as that. Okay, he came in by hook or crook because he was the only guy who was ahead of everybody else after that lady left the prime ministership. Okay, so basically now
He was
coming back to
appointed.
exactly, yeah. So now coming back to this point, right? Like I'll talk about this postman by the name. He's a former postman by the name Akil Ahmed. Okay,
Mhm.
so he went to his local Halifax branch,
Mhm.
and he wanted to. I mean, like you know what? When you have a bank account, your mortgage goes from that account, your bills goes from that account, your utility, your groceries, your everything, your day-to-day living, everything is through that account. Now, if that
Mhm.
account gets shut down, closed, how do you survive, right?
Mhm.
So he apparently he didn't realize this, and he thought that
और वो
something is
कोई
wrong.
ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का मेंबर नहीं था.
No,
मास्क
no,
गोइंग
he
दिस
was
वन.
not. He was not a member of any organization. He's a former postman. Okay. So
Right.
for 6 weeks after his card was first declined, he was trying to buy it, takeaway, like a takeout chicken or whatever. And he was visiting his bank close to his home in Luton, Bedfordshire. And when he approached the bank, uh, you know, they basically said, "Oh, sorry, we can't help. I don't know, your account is closed." And the guy's 45-year-old man, his salary from the Royal Mail was being deposited into the bank account. This is the funny thing: the money is going in, okay,
Hmm.
but his direct debits are being bounced, leaving him unable to pay the bills. You see the situation people are in.
Mhm.
If you're putting money in, no problem, you can put money in, but you cannot withdraw money.
Wow.
Okay, and then apparently he went to his branch manager and he said, if you could provide two pieces of ID, we may be able to let you operate his accounts. And apparently he gained his access, and then later, they received a letter from the bank saying that both Ahmed and his wife Iram Khan will cannot maintain a relationship with the bank for whatever reason, and so their accounts are going to be closed.
Wow.
So this is unbelievable, and he was planning a family trip to Morocco and whatever, but unfortunately nothing could be done because his bank accounts were frozen.
And ये
So
बोलिए. Yeah, please go ahead. Continue.
yeah, so when he questioned and this became a big thing, and newspapers, some of the newspapers carried this article and this story, right? A spokesperson for Lloyd's Banking Group PLC, which owns Halifax, said they couldn't comment on individual cases unless they were given the customer's personal details. We meet all regulatory and legal requirements and do not close an account or prevent one being opened based on a customer's political or personal beliefs. Simple. They just came out and made that announcement.
So because of the political view, also it can be closed.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, because you could be against the government, or you could be like I said, an ISIS sympathizer, or an Al Qaeda sympathizer, or
Our government
associated,
doesn't like you.
or it could be anything, right? Like I
Sim-
just told you, a right wing politician, his account was closed in the UK. He's a politician.
Okay. लास्ट लास्ट क्वेश्चन. अभी ये लोग जाके बोलते हैं कि मेरा अकाउंट क्लोज हो गया, फ्रीज हो गया, क्या करें? अभी मास्क बोलती है कि बहुत सारे बैंक में अकाउंट खोलो, एक ही बैंक में अकाउंट मत रखो. इसका मायने क्या है? ये क्या स्ट्रेटजी है?
And this is exactly what the person I just talked about, Ahmed, the former Royal Mail employee, right? His recommendation was, you know what? I wish I had multiple accounts. I I put all eggs in one basket. I put all my money into the Halifax bank, and unfortunately, this is what happened to me. If I had other bank accounts, then maybe those banks may have let me keep my account. But I don't know if that story is really true, because end of the day, if this is coming from some agency, like I said, right, like that is actually investigating and targeting a certain individual or an organization, then basically they have communicated this with many banks.
Yeah,
Okay.
means your banking system access have been frozen. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. And you know what, they don't find that particular individual, which account he has or whatever. They just send a general email to the 15, 20, 30 banks that exist in the UK, and say that this person's account is basically at risk. So, or this person is at risk, he's a legal risk or a financial risk, so please close his account, please freeze his account. And that's basically, banks will go into their database and say, okay, Mr. Ahmed, whatever Ahmed he is, they look it up and they say, okay, is this the right person? And when they get a response back saying yes, he's the right person, then bank will say, okay, close, done. The other banks won't respond because Ahmed doesn't have an account. But if they also had Ahmed's account in their branch or bank, then they also will probably close the account. So really, that's
Abhi,
not a relief.
Abhi, let me ask you a last question. So you are done. You are done financially. जब आपको ऐसा होता है तो you are done financially.
Pretty
इसका
much.
ये बहुत बड़ा उदाहरण है कि कनाडा में जो हुआ है, ये अकाउंट फ्रोज करने से वो बहुत बड़ा आंदोलन जो था ट्रकर्स का, वो सब शट डाउन हुआ. उनका
100%.
खाने के लिए भी कुछ नहीं था उनके पास.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Now, let me ask you one last question. So, what is your takeaway from it? जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस अभी यूएन बोलेगा कि कोई नहीं बोलता है. अगर ये भारत में होता है तो सब बोल देते, जाने वाले आने वाले कुत्ता भी बोल देता कि ऐसा हो गया, ऐसा हो गया. अभी ब्रिटिश के बारे में कोई नहीं बोलते हैं. कोई इनके लिए बोलेगा या मामला ऐसा ही चलते रहेगा?
Exactly. I'll give you another statistics. Okay. In early August this year, the Muslim Council of Britain called for an impartial review of whether banks were closing accounts disproportionately. Okay. And the financial conduct.
मतलब ये ओके, वन सेकेंड. ओके, मतलब ये फ्रेंच का जो अटैक हुआ, फ्रेंच में दंगा हुआ, उसके पहले ही चालू हो गया.
Oh yeah. This has been going on since the earliest case that I have come across is 2014.
Wow.
Okay. So basically, if you look at the figures from the Financial Conduct Authority, a British organization, they showed that last year 1 in 50 UK adults are unbanked or debanked.
1 in 50.
1 in 50. Okay. However, when you now close this and or take now only the Muslim community, right? 1 in 10 Muslims accounts are unbanked or debanked. Do you understand this?
मतलब बैंक में पैसा रखना ये सेफ नहीं है.
Yeah, 10% of the Muslim population are being targeted, and their accounts have been closed.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
So what's your last word on it?
The last word is, whether you're a Muslim, whether you could be an individual who has nothing to do with anything, right? I mean, like, what I mean is, you may not be associated with any organization. You're just a simple guy who works, who does this stuff and comes back. I mean, I'm not saying all Muslims are terrorists or whatever. I mean, that's a very bad statement. Okay, there are Muslims who actually are, they love their country, they love their stuff, they just want to live peacefully and move on and do their stuff, right? But when you're targeting without people just because of a certain a community is being targeted, you got to be extremely careful about stuff, right? So that's why it's a warning to to all of us. I mean, this can eventually happen to Hindus, for example, right? Because if you're become a right-wing supporter, because they call all the BJP supporters are right-wing supporters or Hindutva supporters and stuff like that. And these guys, but again, keep in mind that they're not targeting any of the Khalistanis or any of those guys yet. Okay. So, but
Even
what I'm
though
saying is this can happen to
and they
anybody.
are also not barking for it.
Exactly. And
जब मुसलमान का टारगेट हो रहा है, कोई भी खालिस्तानी सांसद यूके से अभी तक बात नहीं किया, ये भी
no, not yet. So that's why it's important to keep in mind that anybody could be targeted. So we got to make sure that we are also careful about how we deal with our cash. And sometimes if you have cash, rather than putting it as savings account or a checking account, take some money out and put it in a deposit locker. Like I don't think you'd be
मगर
deprived of.
डिपॉजिट लॉकर को बंद कर दिए तो क्या करेगा? आपको अंदर नहीं घुसने दिया तो
That's also a possibility. That's
you
also a
are in soup
possibility.
any which way.
Yeah, but this is mainly they're targeting the bank accounts, right? So we have not heard any
Lockers
case
are
of
in the bank, right? It is outside the bank also, maybe in the post office or anything like that, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
The
like you
mailbox.
have deposit lockers outside the bank facilities,
Yeah,
like
like
in post
mailboxes,
offices and,
mailbox, etc., etc. Yeah, I
mailboxes,
got it.
and keep some money there, man. I mean, like keep something, and just as a cash for emergency, right? Like and end of the day, you can always go through the legal system and fight these banks and institutions, but this may take months, years, or who knows, right? So at least for your own safety, you got to have some access to some money.
Absolutely. Vinay ji, thank you very much for coming and sharing. Appreciated highly. Friends, write comment. What do you think of British Muslims getting targeted and they being thrown out of the banking system in UK? And also, like Vinay ji said, all the Khalistani gang and BBC and the so-called freedom speakers are silent on this matter. What do you think of it? Let us know. We will see you in the next video. Till then, Vinay ji for you too. Jai Sri Krishna, Jai Sri Ram.
Thank you.